Hi friends, welcome back to Personality City's YouTube channel. My name is Jenna and today we're going to take a brief look at the Enneagram. So far on this YouTube channel, we have been focusing primarily on the Myers-Briggs personality system, but there's another big typology system called the Enneagram. Now, Enneagram literally means nine-sided diagram, and so I will put the diagram right here. It might look a little bit confusing or math-related, numbers-related to look at initially, especially if you're not familiar with it, but just know that it is a pretty basic and well-connected personality system that pairs really well with Myers-Briggs. Now I want to address one quick kind of Myers-Briggs versus the Enneagram debate that goes on before I go into this video, since Personality City does often cover both personality systems and will use them in tandem with each other very often. So one common misconception is that the Enneagram is actually the true measure of personality because it looks at motivation. And the Myers-Briggs, or people who argue this, will often say that the Myers-Briggs, on the other hand, will look at behavior. So the Enneagram is getting to the heart of the issue, whereas Myers-Briggs is just naming a behavior. Now, in a defense for Myers-Briggs, I would say that when you actually dive into the true origins of the Myers-Briggs personality system, you see that at the cognitive function level, we're talking about cognitive preferences or brain preferences. And so when you look at it this way, the behavior is not the personality, or as personality hacker Antonia Dodge likes to say, the map is not the territory. So even though they are different typology systems, they can complement each other and flavor each other. So it often gives you insight about why there might be various different versions of INFPs, for example, because you might have an INFP, which is also in Enneagram 9, or an INFP, which is in Enneagram 2, which is going to look very different from each other. So just as a little explanation before we get going on the Enneagram, that's those two personality types compared. So as you probably know, if you're somewhat familiar with the Enneagram already, the Enneagram includes 9 personality types. But you might be initially concerned with hearing that and maybe favor the Myers-Briggs because the Myers-Briggs represents 16 personalities where the Enneagram only represents 9. But when I say only, it's because when you actually look into the nuance of the system, there are many different flavors of the Enneagram, such as wings and subtypes that you can get into, which will then equal many different Enneagram combinations. So when you look again at this 9-sided figure, you see that there are 9 types, and these are put in a specific order for a very specific reason. One reason being is that there are 3 different triads within the Enneagram system. And you see that the top 3 types on the Enneagram are going to be lumped together in a triad, which is the gut triad for type 8, 9, and 1. And then on the lower arch, including types 2, 3, and 4, you have the heart triad. And then circling back around, you have types 5, 6, and 7, which comprise the head triad. Other terms for this include the instinctive center, the feelings center, and the thinking center. And we'll dive more into these triads in a later video. Introducing the 9 personality types, you start off with 1, which is the reformer. Type 2 is the helper. Type 3 is the achiever. Type 4 is the individualist. Type 5 is the investigator. Type 6 is the loyalist. Type 7 is the enthusiast. Type 8 is the challenger. And type 9 is the peacekeeper. These 9 personality types are categorized based on core motivations and core fears. And so according to their name, you can get a hint at the core motivation for each of the 9 personality types. So the core motivation or the core desire for an Enneagram type 1, which is the reformer, is to be good and or to be right. The core desire for Enneagram type 2s, the helper, is to be loved and to be wanted. The core desire for type number 3, the achiever, is to be valuable and admired. The core value or desire for Enneagram type 4s, the individualist, is to be authentic and to find meaning. The core desire for Enneagram type 5s is to be competent or to be capable. The core desire for Enneagram type 6 is to be secure and to be supported. The core desire for Enneagram type 7s, the enthusiast, is to be satisfied and to be content. The core desire for Enneagram type 8s, the challenger, is to be independent and to protect themselves. And the core desire for Enneagram type 9s, the peacekeeper, is to be at peace and to live harmoniously with others. Now, the core fear for these 9 Enneagram types are directly related and opposite to their core desire. For example, the Enneagram 8, their core desire is to be independent and to be strong. So their core fear involves being controlled and or to be weak. Now, with each of the 9 Enneagram types, with their core fears and motivations, you get additional flavor not only with the instinctive center, the gut, head, or heart triad to which your type falls under, but also within your type's wings. So this is kind of a commonly misunderstood or misconnected aspect of the Enneagram, but a wing for your type can only be adjacent to your type within the actual Enneagram diagram. So when you look at the Enneagram figure right here, again on the screen, you can see that the type 7 can only have a wing of a type 6 or a type 8. So I cannot be a 7 wing 5, for example, or a 7 wing 9. That's impossible. So all that means is that you tend to lean over into those traits from time to time. Some people may favor their wings, their adjacent types, fairly equally, and so they may not recognize a wing or identify one, but others may see that they primarily will lean towards one versus the other. I, for example, am an Enneagram type 7, and I primarily lean towards my Enneagram 8 wing. So I would describe myself as a 7W8. So 7 wing 8 would be how I would describe my Enneagram type. But I do lean over into my 6 wing when it comes to specific situations, and I've noticed even when I am in situations of high anxiety or even stress, I can tend to go over into the traits of a 6 a little bit, but there actually are growth or disintegration and integration arrows as well, which is indicated by the Enneagram figure. So each type points to one other type when they are in a season of growth or integration, and they point to another type when they are in a season of stress or disintegration. Now, finally, another aspect that adds some additional flavor to the Enneagram are the subtypes, like I said. So there are technically 27 various Enneagram types that you could have. And the subtypes are described based on 3 basic human instincts and which one you prefer above the others. So these instincts are self-preservation, social, and one-to-one or sexual. And so these basic human instincts, as their name implies, are inherent to every human being. So every human being will have the need to preserve their self and their resources, for example, as a self-preservation instinct does. And they will also have the need to have an intimate partner and to bond one-on-one with another human. And they will also have the need to be socially accepted by the group. But the Enneagram states that people often prefer or value or firmly stand in one of things over the rest. So those are denoted by the abbreviations SP for self-preservation, SX for sexual or one-to-one or intimate. All 3 of those names are used to describe that one, and SO for social. So if you see the term, I am an Enneagram 7W8 SX. That means that I am an Enneagram 7 with an 8 wing and a sexual or intimate instinct. So under each of the 9 personality types, you have 3 subtypes, which adds additional nuance to the system. So as time goes on, we will definitely dive into each of these Enneagram topics and go further into their meaning and their implications and how they might cross and intersect with the Myers-Briggs personality type. But that is just a very brief overview of what the Enneagram is or how to read it correctly. And so when you dive into the Enneagram system, just like the Myers-Briggs system, and you take a free test online, which I will link a few below, which are some options for you, please don't take the first test as your true result or your only answer. I would suggest taking a few different tests because this whole system is a self-exploration tool. And so you're going to really want to explore yourself and your core motivations and your core desires within the Enneagram in order to find your true type. So each come with a lot of baggage and stereotypes, and oftentimes people describe the Enneagram as a personality system that makes you feel really bad about yourself because you're often describing or being described by your weaknesses. But I wouldn't look at it in that light. The Enneagram is a great way not to put you in a box, but to show you where your box already is and how you're able to step out of it. So the Enneagram and all personality systems give you the tools to step out of the box that you make for yourself, based on your own preferences and core desires and core motivations. So as you look into your Enneagram type, take the results of a few different tests and know that you will find parts of yourself in all 9 types because you contain all 9 types in you. Just like the Myers-Briggs system, you have 4 different cognitive functions. So you're not a thinker or a feeler. You contain both thinking and feeling in your cognitive stack. The same is true for the Enneagram, where you're not necessarily a 7, 8, or 9. You may just prefer type 9, but you also will experience yourself in type 8, for example, because that might be your wing. The Enneagram is a great addition to personality type. I hope you will use it as a powerful tool. Please do introduce yourself with your type below, and whether you know your wing or your subtype, please do include that below and say which kind of Enneagram topics you would like to see first in future videos. But thank you so much for watching this video. I hope that it was helpful in your self-discovery journey, and I will catch you on the next one.